as you go to a smaller company, let's say they have 10 sales reps, and for you to, when you say, hey, let's turn you into a type company first, and that's always kind of been my motto is like, hey, let's lay the foundational systems and actually like polish your company so that you start to attract A players. How do you help a business owner or leader that's maybe attached relationship wise and income wise to that level of sales, right? Like they're like, well, if I lose half my sales guys due to us forcing this whole new uptick of a business, do you feel like a lot of them have this scarcity mindset where they're like, oh crap, I'm not going to fire these people because they're not complying. Like you said, the inmates run the show. So how would you handle that situation where you're like, okay, we're moving into an A-type company, but some people aren't coming along with the train. Like they're going to get left behind. Like, what do you say to the owner in that situation? How do you handle those?
So the owner has to make that decision, right? They have to decide whether they're going to go down on that path or not. And the transition should not be really fast. That's part of the challenge. A lot of people, because a lot of owners, most owners were salespeople, right? So they're used to right now, we got to have it done, let's close it, whatever. But in this case, they have to set up the processes in order to attract the A talent, because anybody who's an A player is going to get in there and go, man, this isn't going to be a supportive environment for me to actually achieve what I'm going to. So they're going to have churn very quickly. And a lot of times, if you look at their Glassdoor rating, let's say they're a company that actually goes to say, reports into Glassdoor or whatever. A lot of times top players, they'll check out that Glassdoor rating. And if they don't see that they're a top playing company, they're not going to even apply, because we do know, I mean, Sam, you and I both know, and I'm sure your listeners know, there's a small percentage of people who are at the top, the 1%ers, the 2%ers. Those are what the companies want to attract, or the top 3%.
Yeah.
Right. So if they're not set up to actually adequately handle the top 3%, it's like, I love hockey, right? If I go try to play for, you name the team, right? The Boston Bruins, right? Where I'm from, forget it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to survive more than probably a minute and a half on the ice with those guys, because I'm not an A player in hockey.
Yeah.
Right. It's just not. But when you attract another A player to a team, they look at the team and they say, okay, can I win the Stanley Cup? Right. Do I have the management in place? Do I have the systems in place that are going to support my moving from point A to point B?
And I'm glad we're talking about this before we dive into recruiting, because I think a lot of people are like, I want to recruit a manager. I want to recruit a new VP. I want to recruit top talent. How do I poach a number one sales rep from a different company or XYZ? And I'm like, well, the problem is there's a two-edged sniff test. They're sniffing you out as much as you're sniffing them out.
Right.
And the reality is you failed your sniff test if you know you don't have a really good system, and that A player, so he talks a big game, because everybody wants to show off and pretend like they're an A player.
Right.
They should see through your bull crap, and they should be able to, like, they're asking the questions like, so tell me about the CRM you use and how you use it. What's the sales process? The B players and C players are like, so what's your pay scale? How much am I going to get paid? The A players are usually asking, can you support the volume that I'm going to bring? Hey, if I were to onboard 10 guys tomorrow, like, what would that look like? They're asking those questions. That's the sniff test that you should be looking for, of like, what kind of sophistication of these questions is it at that the interviewee or the guy I'm going after is trying to ask? And that is my sniff test. And then they're going to say, oh my gosh, I want to meet the team. I want to see the actual numbers of the sales guys. Hey, what's your top earner make? And all of a sudden you're like, well, my top guy, he made 60 grand last year. The guy's immediately going to be like, you don't have a system to get guys producing, or you can't handle if I were to come and want to make 300 grand. Like, that doesn't even, like that, like, we're not even in the same universe right now. And I think a lot of times this ends up being a bigger recruiting issue than going and finding the top talent. It's more so that they're going to weed you out quick, because I'm not going to go work for some company I'm going to break. I've been there. I want to go to some company that's going to handle as much volume as I'm going to bring them.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, if you think about it in the terms of, let's say they're, quote, the prettiest gals in the room, right? And they're at a dance. Well, most of the men are trying to go after a date that night, and they're going to cue in on the prettiest gal. Well, the prettiest gal has her pick of whoever, so she can be very discriminating at that point. And A players are very much, like you talked about, spot on. And the thing is the other thing is if they don't have a recruiting system that's going to be able to, or an onboarding system that's going to be able to onboard these people very quickly, A players know right out front. So they're just going to avoid it because they're looking for leverage. They're looking for, how do I sell as much as I can possibly sell and have the back end support this so I don't have to be dealing with customer service headaches and all of that other. I want to expand the sales. So if the system supports me expanding the sale, i.e. getting referrals, i.e. getting, repeat business, getting, calls out of the blue, we all love those, right? Hey, I need 1,500 units of this, right? That we never thought about. That's what A players look for. And they also look for the ability for them to be able to promote the company so that they can leverage the brand, so that they can leverage more sales. So if the company is not set up to handle the person who has options and can handle those quickly, then, A players don't hang around because they're usually, they're not just interviewing with one company at one time. A players, I would consider myself an A player, even at Paytech, as we were talking before. Out of the 315 salespeople, I was their top guy. And I used to get offers all the time, consistently.
Yeah. Like I just had a guy reach out to me yesterday and I was like, I'm flattered, but dude, like we're in two different worlds, man. And, but at least they're trying, but like, I think true A players, like you just said, are the hot chicks at the dance.